Welcome to the Radical Responsibility Revolution podcast. This is where we are transforming lives, inspiring you to reclaim your health, your wealth, and the power of your mind. Here we share actionable insights, inviting you to turn inwards and design your life of purpose and abundance. Welcome back to another episode of Radical Responsibility Revolution. And I want y'all to buckle up, my friends, because today's guest is living proof that you can go from single mom chaos to self-love queen energy, one mirror at a time. She's a holistic hair artist turned emotional energy alchemist. And you know how much I love alchemy. It basically means she's out here giving makeovers that start in the soul before the scalp. And after years of raising her daughter solo, running a home salon, and surviving enough relationship drama to fill a Netflix miniseries, and we'll hear about it, she's decided she had enough of the old stories. And instead of waiting for Prince Charming or a miracle, she looked herself dead in the mirror and said, "Nope, I'm the one I've been waiting for," which I love that anyways, because I married myself, for those of you that listen to me all the time. So now she's helping other women do that exact same thing through a lot of different modalities that we'll talk about. But her Self-Love Queen Academy, her book, and you know I love a good book, the Heartbreak Handbook, and her brand new empowering mirror meditation, which we will talk about in just a second. And that's all about falling back in love with the woman staring back at you, which we all need to do on a regular basis. So grab your lipstick, your courage, and maybe a box of tissues, because this one might be a little bit on the teary side. This is going to hit you right in the heart. And so I want to welcome the luminous, magical, and totally real Chelon Lockert. And I want to always start, Chelon, with where you are today, because we'll get into all of your valleys and all of the things that brought you to where you are, because you have so many stories to tell us. But where are you right now as far as life and your journey and all of the great, wonderful things that you're doing for women right now? Because I know there's a ton of them.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. That was amazing. But right now, actually, I am like in a transition phase, I feel like, from one person that I was to another, as my baby is graduating from grade 12 this year. And so that means that there was like a big change happening in our house. And so it's going from being like that solo mom to being like this next version of myself, I guess, who can really step further into my entrepreneurial journey and take more control over the things that I'm like working towards. And so it's been a really big pivot for me in regards to like, where do I want to go? What do I really want to do? As well as incorporating all these other beautiful things that I've created as well. And it's very exciting, a little scary,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been calling in this expansion. And so I'm just navigating through that right now, especially with Scorpio season. Scorpio is a lot about like death and rebirth. So it's like shedding those past layers of ourselves and really stepping into this next version, which I believe that we do all the
No, yes,
mm-hmm,
we do that all the time. And
all the
it's so beautiful to hear the stories. This is what I love about all the women that I have show up on this podcast, is that they've all gone through one or multiple, usually, transitions, depending on how long we've been on the planet. And that is why when you say this is the feeling, it doesn't matter what the transition is, it's the
yeah.
feeling of, okay, this is a little scary, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't get the great stuff if we're not scared. If we're
This is
not
true.
scared, we're in our comfort zone. So just embracing that uncomfortableness of, okay, there's a little fear here, and yet I am so ready for it. This is what I love, and I'm hearing that so clearly. It's you are walking into a transition with your eyes wide open. So a lot of times
Absolutely.
we get these transitions because we didn't move and the universe said you are too comfortable, so I'm going to help you move, and we get kicked in the ass or we have a medical emergency, and you've had plenty of those, of all
Mm-hmm.
of the lions, tigers, and bears, and the dragons, as I call them, on your hero's journey. So let's talk about one thing that I really want to share, because I want to share at the top of this hour that you have this beautiful gift for my listeners, the empowering mirror meditation. Because
Yes.
I always tell my audience, get into action. Like the very first step you can do to start seeing what Chelon does and start to work with her, if that's where that path takes you, is take that first step. And
Yeah.
I remember my first workshop that I did for women. Oh my God, it was like 100 years ago, it feels like. And I had all these little tiny mirrors. Even back then, I knew women looking at themselves in mirrors, it's such a powerful work. So tell us about that. And all of the links will be in the show notes. But I want them to get a really good sense of how empowering that is. Just something small that they can start moving in a forward direction right now.
hmm Well, my empowering mirror meditation, like when you look into your own eyes, those are the windows to your soul, right? So, and some people have a really hard time doing that for themselves. And so it's like opening up this whole new level of vulnerability. And really, it has my empowering mirror meditation has affirmations in it. So you're speaking them directly into your eyes. It deals a little bit with like childhood healing, because I know, first of all, when I first started doing mirror meditations and like just talking to myself, affirmations and everything in the mirror, that the hardest thing I actually did was tell myself that I love myself.
Mhm.
That was like so long ago,
Yeah.
because I didn't love myself for so long. I thought that there was something wrong with me forever. And that was a really hard thing to do. And I know it's really hard for other women as well, right?
Yeah.
Because of societal beliefs and everything else. And so
Yeah.
I created this empowering mirror meditation. And so it's not just affirmations, there's actually like a guided mini meditation in it where you go into manifesting and what it feels like for what you're wanting to create. And even if it's just like how
Mhm.
you want to feel in that day,
Yeah.
right? And then there's a
Yeah.
grounding to it as well, because we want to be grounded within ourselves and within our body and within whatever it is that we're working towards. I always say you want to be strong and grounded like the tree, rooted but flexible and flowing, right? And so I've created this, and it's really only about 5 minutes. And it's a beautiful way to just start your day so that you are ready to take action on whatever it is that you're working towards.
Absolutely. And that's
hmm
fantastic. So, I mean, anybody can set aside 5 minutes a day, or they should be able to. So
Pretty easy, I think. Yep.
go get that. And as you're listening to the podcast, we'll continue. And I want to talk
Absolutely.
about where you started with that whole notion, because we as women, that's our thing, right? That's why influencers have so much impact on the younger women of today. It's because they don't have that self-confidence in themselves, that self-worthiness piece. And so you started younger, being teased, being bullied,
hmm
because we can
Yes.
call it teasing, but really all of that level of conversation is about bullying. So let's start in the beginning. How did you go from feeling that sense of people calling you names or teasing you or whatever version that was, to moving to a different space? Because we're going to talk about your journey, but it starts when we're little. We
hmm
get these implants. And so what did that feel like? Because this is the thing that women want to connect with, is how did she
Yes.
feel? Because I feel that exact same way.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I'd been bullied when I was younger, and I always believed that there was something wrong with me, right? That I was unlovable, that like my body was like not perfect enough, that I wasn't good enough, that nobody's ever going to like want to be with me. And I had very low self esteem, very low self confidence, and all of the things. And I just remember feeling like I never want anybody else to feel the way that I do. Like, I never want anybody else to feel this way. Right. And I decided I wanted to become a hairstylist. And that's what I can remember being little, wanting to be a hairstylist and like practicing on my mom and my grandma and my dolls and all the things. Right. Because I wanted them to make them feel better. And I always remember the atmosphere of a hair salon, right? When you go in there and everybody's like looking their best and they feel their best when they leave. And it's just like the energy around it in general. Right. And so that's what I worked towards. But I always had my like own inner healing that I was working on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a lot focused around relationships and everything. Right. And so through my journey of my own self healing, I came across subconscious release technique. And I found that it really helps with me with shifting things. And this is where the energy alchemy comes into everything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to start pursuing that as a career, as well as like on top of my hair services and everything. And it has really helped with shifting and changing my belief system in myself, my negative mindset, and all of the things in order to help me like really step into who I am today. And my girls are always like my driving force and all of that. I never wanted my
Mm-hmm.
girls to feel low about themselves like I did. I always wanted them to know that they were loved, that they were appreciated, that they were perfect just with the way they are, and that no matter what, like they could do anything for themselves, and to really have that self-confidence. And when I look at them today, I'm just so proud of them all the time.
Mm-hmm. And what a blessing, though, to have gone through that experience. I always say that our dragons, these
Hmm.
experiences in our life that keep us where we could just pull the covers up over our head,
Hmm.
or we can move on. And so you talked about how this mindset, the consciousness, what was the spark, the catalyst, if you have a point of reference that you were on this trajectory of not really loving yourself, but there was just this calling that said, come this way. I
Hmm.
will show you something new, something that you can begin to walk down a path of this development of the alchemy, of the ideas that were different than the ones that you had given yourself through the beginning of your life. There had to be some door that opened and you went, oh, I think I'm going to go through that door.
Yeah, it was there's a couple moments actually where it was always about relationships. Like I always wanted to find a relationship, my partner, and I felt like I needed that in order to be whole and complete. And so that's how I ended up like I always felt like I needed to fix myself so that I could be loved. Right. And then it got to a point where I was like, actually, no, I do not need to fix myself. Like, I need to fix my belief system in myself, is how that works. Because I was led to believe that there was something wrong with me when really there was nothing wrong with me. It was everybody
Right.
else's projections and everything else that they put towards me. Right. And once I actually pivoted and switched that mindset to I am lovable just as I am, and there is nothing wrong with me, and I am whole and complete in myself, and I don't actually need anybody else to love me, and that's actually just a bonus on top of the love that I already have for
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
And if I find a partner that's going to love me and appreciate me for who I am and want to add to my cup, then that's a beautiful thing. But if not, I am okay with how I am right now. And I felt like my girls are always my driving force, right? And so I felt like that needed to be something that I needed to teach them. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
couple of moments in my life where I was like, driving my girls to school and they're crying and I'm crying, and I'm like, this is no way to start the beginning of the day, especially for like them, for me, for everything, right? And I was like, the only person who can change this is me. And so that's where I dove into like, how can I make this better? How can I make it better so that I'm not reacting so much, and so that I can approach them from a better perspective, and so that I can switch and change it so that they can have a good day and I can have a good day too, right? So there are little moments in my life where things have happened and I was like, no, I need to change this. Nobody else can change this. I need to
Right.
change it. And so that's where I had to stop and take like the self inventory. I make it a daily routine to do the inner work, to clear the
Mm-hmm.
negative mindset. Like even now, that it is part of my routine to work on myself every day to see how can I show up differently? How can I show up better? What can I shift and change? Right. And we don't have control over everybody else. The
Right.
only person we can control is ourselves. Right. And
Right.
when I really started to understand that, then it was easier for me to just take a step back and be like, okay, what can I do to make this better? And that really just helped change things moving forward.
Yeah. And what a great message to give to women of any age that
Hmm.
it starts with us.
Yes.
And more importantly, that I'm going to use the word maintenance, that you just taking that self inventory every day
Yes.
is maintenance. Just like we get
Yes.
up and brush our teeth, just like we take a shower every day,
Hmm.
it's a maintenance thing. And I just run into so many people, men and women. I changed my thoughts for one day and everything should happen. Okay, how long have you been practicing the other thing? But it's so important to realize that I remember years ago learning about weight loss, and it was a lifestyle. This is what
Hmm.
you're talking about. This is a lifestyle. This
Yes.
is how we begin to manifest, to attract, to resonate, to vibrate the frequency of everything that we've ever dreamed of.
Hmm.
So it's not always been like that for you,
Hmm.
though. I mean,
No.
even though you got the downloads, you had a few little opportunities along the way. So let's talk about how you became a single mom, because the fact is that so many women are hanging on to relationships that are not serving them, but because they're not serving them, they're also not serving their children. And I'm not here
Hmm.
to tell anybody that your story is go get a divorce. That's not what this is about, but it's also about reflecting, how am I not serving myself? How am I not supporting myself? So let's talk a little bit about a few things you've said in relationships. So we
Yep.
do have this thing because we've all been programmed as women about relationships. You need to have one. And then when you
Yeah.
don't, somehow or another, you're broken and you aren't. And yet there is that alchemy of knowing that. So let's talk a little bit about how that unfolded for you.
I got divorced probably how many years ago is it now? I think it's 15 years ago now. I don't know. I've lost completely track of time, but yeah, things, okay. I personally know now that I did not show up as my best self in our marriage, and that I went into this marriage believing that, with the belief system that you go to school, you get an education, you find your partner, you get married, you have kids, and you live happily ever after.
That's the
Right?
book. That's the play.
That's the happily ever after, right? That's Disney characters for us. But
That's
anyway,
right.
and that's not true, right? But that was what I believed, right? It was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is my person. And we were young, right? And I just so wanted to be a mom. And I actually I'm going to tell you, this is what I'm being called to tell you, is so there's the story about, if you were to come to somebody's house with a loaf of bread and they have a fridge full of food and a pantry full of food, and you're trying to give them this bread, and they'll be like, well, thank you, but I already have like lots of food, but thank you, right? If you show up at somebody else's house that has no food in their fridge and no in their pantry and stuff, and give them that same loaf of bread, they're going to think it's the best thing ever. And that is the same with love. If you have not been given the love and kindness and care and compassion and everything that you have been given, that you required in your life, you're going to accept any sort of love because it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Right.
The crumbs.
And so that's exactly what happened. And it continued to happen in so many of my relationships until it was, and thankfully, though, I can say in every relationship, I could feel when it was nearing the end and when it was time for me to step up into this next level of myself. Right. And so that's kind of why I wrote the Heartbreak Handbook as well. But I do see where I went wrong in my marriage and some of the things that I wish I could have changed, but I didn't know better at that time. Right. And so all I can do is forgive myself for that and improve on that going forward. Right. And I got to a point where I was just like, is this how I really want my kids to portray a healthy relationship? Right. Like there was times where I thought maybe I can just hold on until the kids are graduated. And I'm sure there's so many people out there who have thought the same thing. I've coached people who have thought the same thing. And I will never, ever, ever tell anybody to leave a relationship. I will help them work through it if that's something that they want to do. But yeah, there are times when you just grow apart. Right. And that's what I truly believe that our relationships are for. We grow together for so long. And then it gets to a point where it's like, we've learned what we needed to learn from this connection. And then it's time to step away. Right. We can only do so much healing and learning and growing and stuff on our own. We need those other relationships. We need those other connections to help us grow along our journey. That is what their assignment was. Right.
Yes.
And so when I finally was able to look at it from that perspective, then I was able to have gratitude for it, as opposed to like anger and animosity and all of the other kind of things. Right. And so, but it's taken me like 15
Yeah, I mean,
years
it
to
doesn't
get
come
there,
in the
right?
first.
Like, this isn't overnight. You want to talk about I did the mindset for one day? No. This is like 15 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's just kind of how it all came about. Right.
Yeah. I love that idea that relationships are here to serve us, because I had a spiritual teacher many years ago, and she did a talk on relationships are grist for the spiritual mill. Like every relationship, just not romantic ones or partners,
Exactly.
every relationship is here, and a mill is to grind things down to a fine pulp. And so we get this opportunity. And I always say, if somebody's causing you to be resistant or to trigger you, that's where the beautiful opportunity is, because that's basically refining us to the point where we can then alchemize it, which is what's so beautiful about what you do with all of the modalities that you have. And then these heartbreaks have just alchemized you in so many different beautiful ways. So let's talk about the Heartbreak Handbook, because that really is this one of the signature pieces if you can't go to you live or do the coaching. But the Heartbreak Handbook, how did you sit down and say, I think I'm going to write a handbook about how heartbreaks work? Because it's not how to have a heartbreak, it's how to go through the heartbreak.
Believe it or not, I think it was during COVID that I ended up sitting down or just after sitting down and doing this book. And it kind of just turned into a workbook, right? Because it was like, I want to be able to give people the tools and techniques and everything in order to do this on their own if they can't work with a coach or if they can't help somebody. And believe it or not, I was still in a relationship at that time. And then it did not pan out, but that's fine. But and so it was literally just using the subconscious release technique that I use on my clients, as well as journal prompts, affirmations. There's guided meditations in there that you can actually scan the QR code and listen to. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to have like the support and everything that they required in order to do this. And we go into limiting beliefs. We go into inner child healing. We go into societal beliefs. We go into we dive into all of that, because that is everything that I've had to work through.
Yeah.
Like with everything. Right. And I was like, we need to make this as easy as possible. And so that people have a resource to go to where they can just be like, what do I need right now? There's sometimes I'll go to my book and I'll be like, I'll just open it and I'll be like, what do I need? Do you ever do that? Go to a book and just open the page and be like, what message do I need right now? And
of course. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And so
no, I love that, because that's how I live my life. And I've said that forever. If you want to get a question answered or a sign, it's everywhere. It could be on a billboard. It could be on a Post-it note that you wrote 5 weeks ago and you go, oh my God, there's the answer. It could be an oracle card. It could be in anywhere. And that's what I find beautiful about life, is I feel it's a little bit stuck to just pick one book. That's the only bit of information of spiritual guidance. I'm like, no, the universe, God, consciousness is speaking to us constantly. And that's why I think this book is just marvelous, because you have QR codes in there for meditations. How brilliant is that? I have to think about that for my next book.
I added them after. It was an afterthought once I did the QR codes, because I actually launched my book, not really launched it, but started promoting it in 2021. And it was just digital. And I was like, and it was more so just focused for women. And I decided I needed to change it so that it could be for men and women, especially because I had more men coming to me to work with me as well. And so I was like, I want to be able to support them and be so that they can have the resources and everything they need to. Right. And then I was like, how much better can we make this? And then I was like, I have these guided meditations, right? So why not incorporate them in with everything so that people can actually listen to them and go through them and everything as well. So
that's brilliant. And
thank you.
I was going to go on a trajectory about crystals and oracle cards, but we'll save that for a second, because I love the idea. I've spoken to so many different women that we aren't giving men the support that they need, because we live in this world that's very masculine dominant. And I say this all the time. Everybody on the planet was given the masculine playbook, but they've had as much imprinting as we have about what they should do and who they should be. And so now, because the world has shifted and changed and morphed so much, we've evolved. They're lost as well as we are lost. Women are just as lost as the men are, and the men are just as lost as us. So share a little bit about that you started having men come to you, that some of the ideas, because I think this is one of the areas that we are not paying attention to, of understanding them as much as they really need it. I'm not here to serve men, so that's not this conversation. But the fact is that you have some insight now after working with them, that what are their biggest hurdles, fears, feelings that are showing up that you notice?
Mostly helpless, like helpless, hopeless, useless. Like it's literally the 3 words that are coming to mind right now. Like I said, I've actually done some posts and everything about this, how like we have created this world of empowered women, but we did not teach the men how to hold them in their capacity.
Wow. Yeah.
Because we still need this masculine archetype this masculine figure to help hold our feminine essence. Right. And so as we shift into this age of Aquarius, we are going to see this rise of the divine feminine and this rise of the divine masculine to come together, to work together in harmony, is what it's going to be about. And you can see so many structures in the patriarchal society that are falling away already. And so it's about helping men to do their own healing so that they know how to better support women, that they're not just here to be providers. we need them for more than that, right? Because we can provide for ourselves now. We can provide for ourselves. We can do all the things we can. And so they're like, what am I good for then? Kind of thing, right? And so I know communication is a really big thing. They don't know how to communicate their feelings. They don't even know how to process their emotions, right? And I actually I've been working on a program for men called True North Anchor. And so it's about being that anchor within themselves so that they can be the anchor for everybody around them as well.
That's fantastic.
And there was actually 5 masculine archetypes that were channeled to me. So to work with them, as well as their own divine feminine healing and emotions and everything. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. That's going to be, I can see that's going to blossom into something really amazing. Because I used to say I'm the best man for the job because I got the masculine playbook. This is how you do it. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to drive. I'm going to force all of that. And I was sitting on the beach a couple of the years ago in Playa, and the ocean said, wake up the divine feminine on the planet. And I went, no, I don't know who you're talking to, but it isn't me. And then I realized it's about the balance, because that's what's happened. We've adopted the playbook. So we've incorporated all that masculine so we can do for ourselves. But our nature, the feminine energy, needs to be balanced in both of us. And what you said, feminine energy is communication, connection, intuition, flow, and they don't have it because nobody's ever said, here's the other half of you. Here's the part of you that's missing. So I love that you're even exploring that. And I just am holding that space because I think that's brilliant. We need that for our men folk. And I was interviewing a guy recently that he teaches women. And because he started out with doing boudoir photography for women, but now he just works with women. And I said, how does that work out for you? But sometimes you need somebody in that other sex that can be the anchor for them. So that's fantastic. I love it. So we'll talk about some of this energy that you're talking about. And I love the idea, especially because now it's close to Halloween. And I want to talk about crystals, oracles, and witches, because I love a witch. Like, they have had a bad rap. So bad.
You're speaking my language, girl.
I know. You were speaking my language when I was looking at all the things. And I thought it's so heartening when we can just bring these conversations out into the open. Talking about a witch is almost like talking about sex and money with people. Oh my God, are you a Wiccan? And I'm like, no. But I also know they used to call us witches because I call myself the Queen of Magic. I've had people say to me, are you a witch? I'm like, no, I'm just magical. But that really truly is the essence of, for me, what a witch is. It's the alchemization, is the magic that we bring into the planet, and using some of these other modalities like oracle cards, because we just shared we can get our answer from anywhere, and crystals. And so when you talked about your grounding meditation, we're grounding into the crystalline core of this planet, which I just think is so beautiful. So let's talk about, or you share about, how you're supporting women with these crystals and with the oracle cards and some of the things that you do at your studio. And then tell me about how witches all fall into place there.
Well, first of all, if somebody asks me if I'm a witch, I will 100% tell them I'm a witch. I have no shame in that. I don't identify as pagan or Wiccan or anything. I am just very free flowing, all very intuitive and all of the things, right? And if you break down the acronym for witch, is woman in total control of herself.
Yay! Yes.
So isn't that not powerful? Yes, exactly. And so that is literally my mission, is just to help empower women to stand in their power and to own their power and to do all of those things. Right. And I love incorporating my oracle cards and everything into any session, any appointment, anything that I can, because the messages are always so spot on. And I find that lots of the times I've already delivered the message, but it's just that additional confirmation for people to visually see. And as far as crystals, I actually, because of my salon services, when I do my lash appointments, I lay crystals on them so that their chakras are being balanced as I work on them. It also keeps them much more still, which is beautiful.
Exactly.
around a little too much. Hold on a second. No. And I love working with pendulums. If I work with crystals, lots of the time it's like pendulum
Mhm.
crystals. I very much use my pendulum for everything. Like even if I'm just like working one-on-one in a Zoom
Yeah.
session, I have my pendulum going because it's clearing as I'm talking and
Yeah.
everything. And I use it for lots of the times when I'm working with my clients and I tap into all their chakras and we clear any limiting beliefs or emotions and stuff that are stored within each of those chakras.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's so cool because I teach about energy all the time.
mhm,
And I think that people just get a little too distanced, detached from
yes.
energy, when the fact of the matter is that we are creating that energy from our within. And that something as simple as I just pulled little tarot cards. It's not like I don't really know what I'm doing, but I can see the words on the page.
Mhm,
But they are messages from our own within, from our own consciousness. It's just energy. It's a vibratory thing. And I remember, I think I was probably 20. So this is back in the 80s. I went to a chakra event and I'm like, what the hell is this? I was woo woo before it was cool. And the fact is, though, it has so much energetic power within our system. I don't even want to say our body because it's our
yeah.
alignment with everything that's going on. So for those people that have never even heard of a chakra, because there's people that are going to listen to this
Yes.
podcast and go, oh God, there she goes again. Let's talk about what a chakra is and how it balances and how they're all connected to one another, because it really truly is quite remarkable. We don't even know what they are. People ask me for what's a chakra. I would think by now people know what that is, but they don't
Not everybody.
always. Not
Sometimes
everybody.
we're speaking Greek, but
Yeah.
they're energy centers in the body and they're like wheels. And so they're moving, right? And if one becomes blocked, then we need to clear it or balance it or whatever so that the energy is flowing through your body again. And each one of them represent it like has its own working unit. And each one of them also can have things stored in them that will stop them from actually flowing and the energy flowing within your body. Like I'm very much because subconscious release technique works lots with emotions, okay?
Yeah.
And the emotions that are stored in your body. And my Bible is the You Can Heal Yourself book by
Louise.
Yes, by Louise
Yeah.
Hay.
Hey.
And
Mhm.
because in there, it tells you what limiting beliefs, it tells you what affirmations and everything that you need to heal those symptoms, those emotions, those whatever it is, right? And so sometimes I will go and reference my book and be like, what is coming up here? And we work through it, we clear it, we discover like, where is this coming from? And so this can all be stored within your chakras. It can be stored within your body and emotions are energy in motion, right? And so it affects us in so many different ways, like aches and pains and whatever else. So it's really important to have like it all flowing in general.
Yeah. I love Louise's book because it's
Mhm.
on my bookshelf back here.
Yeah.
And what I think is just an opportune moment to address the idea that if people are listening and they have to figure out how to take a pill or go to a doctor to figure out what's wrong with them. I went through cancer treatment, and trust me when I say I wouldn't, if I had it to do over again, I don't regret anything in my life. I wouldn't have let them do those things that they
Mhm.
did,
Mhm.
because our bodies are just the most magnificent creatures
Yes.
ever, and they have all the information. And when we store all that energy through those emotions, they do get stuck. So if you're
Mhm.
stuck in your root chakra, which is relationships and money and those kind of connections, how do you expect that the flow up to your heart to
Mhm.
be in resonance with all the rest of this that's going on up here, which is the mind? It's amazing to me how we discount that, but then take a pill to mask it. So I
Mhm.
love
Yes.
any kind of energy work because it is so healing. Something as simple as your throat, when we get a sore throat, or not necessarily just a cold kind of thing, but when it's a persistent, and you look that up in Louise's book, and she says you're not speaking your voice, you're not speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's true. I'm not. It's so important to see that all of these connections in our body are also connected to whatever's happening with us emotionally. So I love that you do that work,
Mhm.
because I believe that those are the messengers that have been sent here to help us on this planet, because we need that support to move through all of this. So I want to talk about generational patterns, because
Yeah.
generational, I mean, they come up all the time, at least in my world, because we perpetuate these patterns. And even
Mhm.
as women, we get imprinted. We've been imprinted for 2,500 years of this masculine playbook. And so we passed it on to our children, especially to our daughters. So it's an opportunity for us to break the patterns.
Mhm.
So share a little bit about how you feel like we're now in this age of Aquarius. The planet is lifting itself in an energetic vibration towards the feminine, but more of the balancing of both.
Mhm.
How have you shifted that pattern for your daughters, but also for yourself? Because when you change, I say we are our grandparents' biggest dream. Think about
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that you're bringing that up because I always tell everybody, I'm like, you were your vision, your ancestors' vision
that.
to
Yeah,
break these chains, to do the work. That's why they're here supporting you through
yeah,
all of this. We think that we're doing it alone. We're not. Our ancestors are like cheering us on from the other side. And we always
yeah.
talk about like our ancestral healing. It's a burden. Like we have to heal this and we have to heal that for our ancestors and everything else. But we always forget the amazing things that our ancestors gave us too. And I'm guilty of that as well. I've gotten into it where it's like having to break all these chains and whatever else. But with my family, I feel like some of the biggest things that I've had to heal is like the overworking, overgiving, self-sacrificing, just like lack of self-confidence and self-esteem and all of that kind of stuff. Like very self-serving, like very sacrificial, I guess is more so of it. And even like lots of like money mindset, well, lots of money mindset and that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's been a lot that I've had to dive down. And it's very interesting because one thing that I discovered, and I didn't realize this actually until my ex mother in law passed away, is that when you have children, you're doing healing. Because I went to a retreat and she came to me there. So that's why I was like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. But we are healing that ancestral line as well
Yeah,
for our children. So that
yeah.
was like a very big, oh, okay, it's not just my family. It's if I'm doing
Hmm.
this work for my girls, it's for that side of the family as well.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so it was very amazing and very eye opening to experience that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we get so myopic in
Hmm.
our vision of what's life and our life and the world, when it is so much bigger and it's
Hmm.
infinite. And so just to know that there's no beginning, there's no end. It's just this beautiful cosmic dance that's going
Hmm.
on, and we're part of it. And yes, we get an opportunity to make a difference. Every thought, every feeling that we have is a ripple in all of it, that whole
Hmm.
butterfly effect. It just is so magical.
Yeah.
And then to really just feel that energy and be aware of it, to me, that is one of the most mystical things that we can do for ourselves and for the world.
Hmm.
So, speaking of all this inner work, you started out by doing hair and helping
Hmm.
women feel beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you discovered along the path, it's not about feeling necessarily feeling good on the outside is nice. I will say that.
It is. Absolutely.
And
I like to look good.
yes, exactly. Some days
If
I
I
don't
don't
care.
look good, I don't feel good. I get that.
Well, yeah, some days I look, yeah, no makeup, no whatever. But from the perspective that now you support women in this inner journey.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned. I give pause every once in a while to reflect on what I observe is happening in the world with
Hmm.
this thing called influencers.
Hmm.
Because when I grew up, biggest influencer was my high school campus, right? I didn't have an internet that told me I had to look and feel and be a certain way. What would you say to these women that are younger now? They're in their 20s, because I know you have daughters, that they have lost this notion of reflecting who they are authentically, as opposed to going and seeing an influencer that says you have to do this to be okay, because the
Hmm.
truth is we are already okay, and you know that.
Hmm.
But how would you, if you had, I gave you a microphone and you could talk to them, what would you say to them? No, they aren't
Or to
listening.
somebody else.
To the
They are.
girls that are watching those
Oh, I
interviews.
say, yeah, I tell my girls all the time that they are beautiful and perfect, like just the way they are, and that they don't have to look a certain way in order to fit in or be loved or accepted or whatever else, and to be true to themselves always. We disregard ourselves and our inner knowing and our inner, like our intuition all the time for other people. Like I'm totally 100% guilty of doing that myself. And even sometimes I'll catch myself and I'll be like, wait a minute, right? This is not it. And that you will find your people. When you can be more true to yourself and stand more so in your authenticity, that is where you find your tribe, right? As opposed to trying to fit in to other people's boxes. Like it's a beautiful thing to be able to stand out and be true to who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all unique expressions of the individualized, unique expressions of the one.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to say, I want to be like somebody, then we've already discounted who we are. And then that whole thing of shame comes up. So
Right.
speaking of that word shame, it's a
Mm.
thing, it's an emotion that's a man made or woman
Yeah.
made, depending on how you look at it.
Societal.
It's not one of the core emotions of fear and joy and love and all that are on the emotion wheel. Tell me a little bit about an experience that you had with shame early in your life that was the catalyst for you to say, yeah, this is how I'm going to start seeing myself. And then you had to make a shift at some point later because shame is a very vile emotion for women, especially
Yes.
that will seep into your beingness. That is completely something that we've created as the human species. It doesn't exist in nature. The cats and the dogs don't go, you're just not looking good enough today. So tell me a little bit of a story about when you first experienced shame in your life.
Well, the one story that's coming up right now, and I was like younger, I don't know, early teens, I think I was. And I've always loved makeup and I've always loved hair and I've always loved all of these things. And I can remember my mom saying to me, why do you want to do that? Like, why don't you just wear like less makeup like your aunt? Or why don't you just whatever? And it was like, almost like this shame to be true to who I am because I love these things. Like I love doing my makeup. I actually come up with some of the best ideas when I'm being creative and doing my makeup and stuff, right? And doing my hair and everything. It's actually when I get tons of ideas, tons of downloads because I'm in my creative flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a bad thing to want to be glamorous or be like, if you don't want to wear makeup, don't wear makeup. I don't care. But I don't think it's a bad thing either to want to look good and to look your best and to feel better about yourself. And so I carried a lot of shame about that for a really, really long time, that like it wasn't okay to be who I am,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So that
Yeah.
was like a big one. Yeah.
I think that's Sheila Kelly, who started a organization called the S Factor. She refers to it as the first offense. So we as girls, women, we have a first offense where we begin to doubt who we are
Mhm.
authentically. And that is a great story because as I'm listening to it, there are a lot of women that don't look at wearing makeup the way you just described it. When you were describing how you had fun with it and it was a
Mhm.
joyful experience, what I immediately thought of was women in the African nations, you know, how they paint themselves and it's just this celebratory thing.
Yes,
So there's a
exactly.
difference, though, from that kind of energy that you had around it, which was quashed, or
Mhm.
it wasn't quashed
Yeah.
completely, and a woman that has learned behavior that says if I don't do this, then I'm not okay. So
Mhm.
I love the distinction that I felt you sharing, that this was just joyful for you. It's
Mhm.
creative. It's an outlet as
Yeah.
opposed to this is a mask. Like I have to get surgery to do this, or I have to look this way, or I have to dress this way to for me to feel okay. When the
Yeah.
reality is you're talking about adornment, which I love that because back in Cleopatra even days, that's the
I'm glad you brought
adornment
up
of it.
Cleopatra.
Oh, really?
I
Okay. Well,
love
because
Cleopatra. I work with her all
oh,
the time.
really? Oh my gosh, I should send you a picture. I went to a Cleopatra exhibit years
Oh,
ago, and I have this Cleopatra like masky thing on it. It's beautiful. So tell me about
awesome.
Cleopatra, why you love her, because I just imagine almost like that's who you were describing as yourself.
Yeah, well, I just love her energy. Like she believed so the very first goddess that I started working with was goddess Isis. And as
Mm.
I've progressed through everything, I've worked with multiple different goddesses or whatever, but goddess Cleopatra came to me and she believed she was reincarnation of goddess Isis. So I was like, okay, this makes sense that she's coming to me to work with me and stuff. But she was very true to who she is. Like I love that she had this very like a black cat energy. It's like the black cat
Mhm.
energy that we talk about, and that she is very authoritative as well. And the fact that she had two lovers, I guess you could say, or whatever, I was like, well, that's very interesting that she was just like she was the leader. Like she just
Yeah.
owned it, and
Yeah.
like she ruled. And I thought it was just like
Mhm.
it's just so powerful and empowering. Do you know what I mean? To
Mhm.
have these
Yeah.
feminine rulers as opposed to
Yeah.
these masculine ones. And she was just,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's just, she's an amazing energy for sure. And I love, and it's really funny because I've been gifted honey on multiple occasions and I only put it because apparently she was gifted honey as well. So I thought that was like very
Oh,
interesting. And
how
somebody
fun.
else mentioned it to me later and I was like, oh, that's okay. Very interesting. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
love her
fun.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a book and it's very technical and researched. The title is When God Was a Woman,
Hmm.
because really women were the gods on this planet. This has only been the last
Yes.
2,500 years that this craziness has been going on.
Hmm.
It's time for a change.
Hmm.
So I'm excited to see what that change is going to be. So I want to ask you, what are you most proud of in your life?
I will forever and always be the most proud of my girls. Yeah.
Okay.
And I
That's a
know
standard answer. That's a standard
I
answer.
know
And
it's
I,
a standard. I know it's a standard, but like I do all of this healing and everything to change our legacy. Like I've
mm,
seen these reels and quotes and everything where it talked about I will be the ancestor that they call on. Do you know what I
mhm.
mean? And that's why I do it. That's why. So maybe I'm more so proud of the healing and everything that I do every day. I'm proud of the fact that I've just kept going no matter what, even when
Mhm.
I felt like the odds were against me. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I continue to show
hmm
up every day, every day, every day. And I can already see in my girls that like it's already made a difference because they're so much more confident than I ever was at their age. And so that's why I
hmm
do say, because I did that for them.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
encouraged them. I did the healing. I did all of the things. And I truly believe that they're going to be making just waves in this world for themselves as well. Hmm. And
Well,
I think
we,
that's because I know everybody says, oh, I'm most proud of my kids. But yeah, I don't know.
well, I'm going to just share that I'm proud of you for when you told me the story about being a single mom,
Mm,
but also finding a path as an entrepreneur, as a female entrepreneur,
mhm.
so that you could have that balance. Because I think that's really one of the
Yes.
things that we are missing so much in this society, particularly because women, they get the playbook, it's like, go get a corporate job, right? And then
Yeah.
you have to make the choice, a perceived choice of my family, my kids, or this corporate job where I have to go to a place.
Yeah.
And there is this beautiful blend of that called being an entrepreneur and
Hmm.
creating your own space and however that shows up for you. So talk to me a little bit about that journey of being this mom, the single mom, you get divorced, and now you have to make a choice. How am I going to support them, but also support my own dream? Because it's not either or. I think
Yeah.
that's where we get lost, women, is that they feel like they have to make an either or choice when you can create something beautiful like you did. And it's
Hmm.
morphed into even more than you could have imagined, I imagine. So
It
tell me
has.
a little
Yeah.
bit about that journey of that had to be scary too in the beginning.
It was. I thankfully already was working from home when my ex and I separated because when I had my first daughter, I did not want to have to go back to work. And it was not financially a good idea for me to go to work because I would have just been paying for a babysitter
I mean,
or working
daycare.
to pay a babysitter. That's
Mhm.
literally at what I was at that point. Right.
Yeah.
And so I decided I wanted to be at home with my girls. I wanted to be working from home still so that I could do all of the things. And I still loved my occupation and I loved my career and everything. And thankfully, after my ex and I parted ways, obviously I still needed to make an income. So I was grateful that I found many different opportunities to be able to still work at home. We hosted some ESL students, like English as a second language. We hosted them here at our home sometimes, which was a really good opportunity for my daughter or daughters to experience different cultures as well. We had I think all of them were Japanese students that stayed with us. The first one that stayed with us was a Korean student or whatever. But it was just it was a great experience for the girls to learn about their culture and have that interaction with them and have them stay in our homes and everything. And so we did that for a little while. I was able to go to the school during lunch hours and do lunchtime supervision and stuff. I worked in a career with Farouk Systems, which is like the product line that I use, being an educator with them. So I was really grateful that my parents were a really big help in regards to those, and my sisters in regards to being there to watch my girls, to allow me to do those like extra things as well. And I also worked at one of the hair schools that was here in Regina, Rashard's Beauty College. It's not around anymore, but I was an educator there for a little while. So I've had so many amazing opportunities along my career. And it's no matter what happens, like if something doesn't work out, if something doesn't pan out along my journey, I'm always like, because there's going to be something else and there's going to be something better. Right. And I just trust in that. Like if it doesn't work out, I'm a firm believer that like rejection is redirection.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And that sometimes we think we know the path, but we really don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just
Absolutely.
like trusting and going. And I always feel like any sort of experience is never a bad experience. Like it just helps us evolve along our journey. And so like I've had a lot of amazing opportunities, even with being a stay-at-home mom, to work so many different like aspects. And I'm so multifaceted. And I think that's why I just have so many things that I do in order to help like support people and just, I don't know. I thought I had an idea of what I want like my end goal to be. And I feel like it's actually going to be bigger than what I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I love
Because
about the
I
mystery of the
never ever
universe.
thought that I would even be doing this. So, but here we are.
Exactly. That's why I love to hear stories like that, because it tells other women, don't get into that trap of either or. Get into the flow of, there is infinite potential and possibility out there. I can see you flowing down this beautiful river of life going, look, there's something I could do. Oh, that's not working out anymore. Oh, here's another. I'm going to take that little, river, a tributary down there, because that's really what it is. And if we stay open to all of these beautiful possibilities and be willing to try any of them. That was the other thing that I got from that story you just told, is that you were just willing and open to anything that might show up. Because most people, I'm very closed. I'm not going to have people in my house. I don't want to do anything like that. And, and it's that closed down belief system that will keep us stuck. And that comfort zone is death to everything. So I just love, those are beautiful stories.
I think it's also, I don't know, I find like I'm a Sagittarius and I find that I just crave just change and adventure and discovery and all of those things. Like I just crave it. If I don't get to do those things, like it's just stifling for my soul.
Yeah.
And
it's good wisdom for all women and men to be curious.
Absolutely.
Because discovery is about being curious. And if we stop being curious, we will never find anything. We'll just be looking at the same navel gazing that we had yesterday. So
exactly.
So I want you to imagine that it is the end of your life and you have lived this beautiful, as long as you want life, and you are now watching as your own angel guide yourself being eulogized by all of these magnificent people that you have touched in your life. What is the overriding energy that you want to feel that they are sharing about you? Who were you? What legacy did you leave?
Inspiring.
Okay.
Yeah. Inspiring. And I was told that actually by one of my hair clients. And she's just like, every time I come here, she's like, you're just an inspiration. And that's exactly it. Like that's what it's about, is just to inspire people to see better. to see better for themselves, to see better for their lives, to, like you said, that it's not just like this whatever blank screen, that it's the same day in and day out, that there are so many amazing magical things to discover in this world. So yeah.
And I agree that you are very inspiring.
Well, thank you.
And what a beautiful gift to bring to this planet, because there's a lot of not inspiration things going on at the moment. And yet it's only if we choose to look at those will we be drawn into them. When we begin to look at people like you that are inspirational, then we feel that inspiration welling up within us. So I want to thank you so much for being that inspiration, for being a little spark for me when I was at an airport. I am so grateful that you gave us your time, talent, and energy today, because you have touched a life, or 12 or 12,000, I don't know, today by just being you. And that is the most beautiful thing that anybody could ever do, is be their authentic self. So I really want to thank you for today. And if you want to learn more, I have all your links in the show notes. And so go get the mirror work, buy the book. And if you're in, what town are you in?
Regina, Saskatchewan,
State.
Canada.
Oh, Canada. Okay. If you're in Saskatchewan, Canada, you can go see her at her studio, because her website link is in there. But it's beautiful. It's magical. She's got great coaching programs. And I know that you would just be an inspiration to anybody that decides they want to work with you. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to interact with you today. I had an amazing time.
Thank you.